Oh.
Paste it up here.
So all the Thunder gave up is a surge, right?
Pretty much.
Dang.
Which we talked about. I said earlier that would be the guy that.
I think we all. I think I said it too.
Yeah. All right. All right. All right, guys, going by. I didn't shoot out any links or anything, so it's gonna be a recording. All right. Welcome to another special edition of the Monsters of Geek podcast, as we will be talking about the 2016 NBA Finals, the NFL. Let me start over. Welcome to another special edition of the Monsters of Geek podcast. I'm your host and editor-in-chief of MonsterGeek.com, Aaron. With me today, we have our mythical snow creature himself, Joe Yeti. Joe, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Today, we're going to talk about the 2016 NBA Finals, the wrap up there, and what a great finals that it was, especially the Game 7. We'll also talk about the NBA draft and a little bit about the trades that went on that night, and we'll talk about a little bit of the offseason as far as maybe some free agents or what teams need to do what, or maybe, what we look forward to in the NBA offseason, which has become a monster of its own. I say, Joe, you probably agree with that as far as a 24/7, 365-day-a-year league.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Joe, let's talk about the NBA Finals first. What a great finals we had. Of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers walk away with the trophy, giving Cleveland their first championship in, was it 52 years?
52, yes.
Yeah, 52 years, I believe. And what a way to do it. I mean, down one, down to 3-1. No one in NBA history has ever come back from the finals. Now, there have been some people come back in the playoffs. Of course, Golden State did with OKC. I think there was, if I'm not mistaken, the stat is that there were 6 more teams before Golden State did it to OKC that had actually come back from a 3-1 deficit. Joe, what do you think about the finals? Of course, we'll talk about LeBron James and Kyrie Irving and the utter collapse of what the Golden State Warriors, after such a great season, just kind of fell apart near the end. What do you think about the finals? Just your overall reaction to them.
I thought it was a great finals. It jumped out 2 straight blowouts, and then Cleveland came home and blew out Golden State, and then Golden State blew Cleveland out, and Cleveland
Game
came
4
back.
was pretty close for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
until about the end of the third.
Well, I think that's what you can say about all these games. Is they was close to a point until the later, late third, early fourth, and that's when people went on runs. Game 3 was. I mean, the Cavs pretty much had that in the bag. Game 3, and I think Game 5 was like that too, when they just kind of ran all over them. So,
yeah, it's definitely a great series. And just when they jumped out, especially, we'll talk about the first. There's really nothing to talk about up until probably about Game 4. And that's when Draymond Green kind of woke up King James. I think that will be the game everybody kind of remembers as the one that, if that didn't happen, if Draymond didn't get suspended because of mostly his reputation, whether he, hit LeBron James below the waist or not, there's definitely an action to do that in his reputation. That would have been probably the 4th time that he had done that. He did it twice to Steven Adams. He found LeBron James on a picture that I saw that was definitely right in the groin. And then the Game 4 incident. That kind of shifted the whole series. And then he called LeBron James a bad name. I won't say that here because we're a family program. But it's something that even someone like, Jalen Rose tweeted that, that's going over the line. You never call a guy that. Joe, what do you think about that? As I think we can both agree that was a turning point as far as LeBron James going, Super Saiyan on Golden State.
well, you don't cup check LeBron.
Yeah, you don't cup check him, and then you call him that name. Like one of the two, you can't do them both together. I mean, that's an equation that's going to be like, holy crap! I think I've just made him mad.
Yeah, you don't cup check him and then tell him he has an itch. and expect him just to take it. I think he said something like, I'm a father. You don't call me that name," or something like that, and a husband or something. Yeah, I mean, it broke up the beast. I don't think everybody makes a big deal out of Game 5 with Draymond being suspended. I think it would have been the same outcome. I don't think Draymond would have played that much of a difference in it.
No, I don't either. I think that they came out and really wanted to prove that they were one of the best teams in the NBA. Now, would it have been maybe a little bit closer? I don't know. Cleveland really came out the gates, just like they did in Game 3. In Game 5, they did the same thing, just really jumped out. I think it's like 22-8 or 25-8 or whatever it was at the end of the first quarter. They were just explosive. Kyrie was going. We'll talk about Kyrie a little bit later, but they did a good job. They hunkered down on defense. That was always the key. You look at their Game 3 win. They hunkered down on defense. Game 4, they kind of got a little bit loosey-goosey at the end of the third and propelled Golden State into the lead in the fourth, and they could never catch up. Game 5, 6, and 7, their defense was solid. Sure, did Golden State miss some shots, and we'll talk about that too. Yeah, sure, they missed some open shots. But I thought that they did a great job defensively just to kind of rush the shooters, stay in their faces, and not take, unwarranted risks trying to get a steal or, trying to jump out into the passing lane and leave somebody open. I thought they did a much better job on defense in those games.
Let me just say something. If LeBron would have won MVP of the league and had a series that Stephen Curry had, we'd be talking more about that.
Oh, most definitely, and that's something we'll talk about. We'll talk about Steph Curry's performance tonight. I mean, it's definitely warranted talking about it, considering you're the first unanimous MVP and you played like garbage. At least not, I wouldn't say garbage, but you played mediocre. And when you're the unanimous MVP, you can't play mediocre. He had a good stats for Harrison Barnes, not Steph Curry, and I think that was a big turning point there. Let's go ahead and talk about LeBron James a little bit.
LeBron
James. The guy just was incredible in this series, especially games, 5, 6, and 7. You can kind of point to Draymond and in the suspension. Some people always say, "Oh, if Draymond would have been suspended," well, if Draymond wouldn't have got him mad, I don't know if Cleveland would have won that series. If Draymond didn't turn the light switch on for King James, and it just seems like when he started playing well, and we talked about Kyrie. When I've talked to some people that say Kyrie should have been MVP, the first 2 games were terrible. You look at James's stats in the first 2 games, and that's an elite player stats. Even though they were in a loss, you could tell that his stats was much better. He was still much more of an effective player than what Kyrie was those first 2 games. Joe, I mean, he was just absolutely amazing. It started in game 3, and then game 5 and 6 and 7. I don't think I've ever seen 3 straight games. And yes, I'm including the legendary Michael Jordan that I have ever seen in that situation. Now, LeBron James is the first player in NBA history to have 2 40-point games in regulation back to back, and then a triple double in Game 7. He's the third player to do that in NBA history, behind Magic Johnson and there's one other. I'll have to look it up, but Magic Johnson is one of them. Joe, talking about games 5, 6, and 7. I mean, he was just absolutely amazing. And the reason I say 40 points in regulation, I did do some research today. It was a meme kind of going around Facebook that Jordan had 2 back-to-back 40 games and a 55-point game. He did have 2 back-to-back games. One of those was in overtime against the Suns in '93. They ended up losing the game 129 to, I think, 121 or something, in 3 overtimes. So technically, Jordan never did 2 in regulation. He did 2 back-to-back, one of those in overtime, and then the 55. So just to clarify, LeBron, ESPN didn't do a good job of that. They was kind of people were jumping back and forth. They didn't say in regulation, but he is the first player in NBA Finals history to have 2 back-to-back 40 games in regulation. Joe talks about games 5, 6, and 7. I mean, how unbelievably great was LeBron James?
You said it started in Game 5 or whatever, but really, if you take a look, it really started last season. Mm-hmm. In the playoff, like in the finals, golly, I've watched basketball for over 20 years now, and I've loved basketball. I've never seen a performance like it. I mean, I've got to see some of the greats play, like Jordan and all them, and I've never seen a series like it. He's just such a dominant player, like a dominant force. To actually compare him to Jordan is not justified. I don't think. I think they're two different type of players. I really think if you were to compare him to anybody, it would be a Magic Johnson
or Oscar Robinson,
or Big O. I mean, it's just ridiculous that all he can do. He can play every position on the court. Magic Johnson could do that. Magic Johnson in a year where he played the 5 position all year. So, I mean, we're not. I don't think we've had a player in the league like LeBron, and they're trying to compare him to people is just not right at all. 6 straight finals. I'm sure he lost 3 of those.
Jerry West went to 9 and lost, and won 1.
But
we don't tend to hold that against him either.
a big thing is he never had maybe besides that Dallas finals, he never had the better team. Even when he was in Miami, Oklahoma was pitted to win that series. The Spurs was pitted to win those series. The only time I think that he may have had a better team was that Dallas series, and I just think it was meant for Dallas to win that series. But I mean, I don't think we'll ever see another player like him. I think all these young players coming in, they're trying to compare him. Hey, he has a body like LeBron, blah, blah, blah. Just stop. I mean, that's just putting too much pressure on him. There's not going to be another player like him.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do a comparison between LeBron and Jordan. For me personally, and I've watched Jordan play, and Jordan's a great player. He's, obviously, there's a great argument there that he's the greatest NBA player to ever live. But there's also now an argument that LeBron James is the greatest NBA player to ever live. And I think that, the people that I talk to, you, Andrew, our buddy Abe, Andrew and Abe are big Michael Jordan fans, but they can also see the greatness of LeBron James. And can see that he's a great basketball player, and they can make legitimate arguments that MJ is the best player to ever play the game, but they can also make arguments that, I can see LeBron becoming the best player in the game. I think LeBron James, for my personal opinion, and people will hate me for this, especially the people who have those Jordan blinders on that can't see past that, the years of MJ. As far as a basketball player, he is the most gifted, best basketball player I've ever seen. To see somebody that's 265, 275, 6'8", can just muscle people in the post, can drive by you with the first step. His jumper's falling off, but not so much that he's not, an effective jump shooter when he wants to be. He has great court vision. He can rebound. He can run the point. He guards all 5 positions. The guy is just absolutely amazing. And for me personally, and you can make an argument for MJ, and I totally believe it, but for me personally, LeBron James, after this finals, and even before that, I'm a huge LeBron James fan to begin with, but I think the way he got that 3rd championship, where he was just like, you know what, guys, we're not losing this. I want to take you to the promised land. It was amazing. In those last 3 games, I've never seen anything like it. The guy just was absolutely amazing. And I look there and I say, you know what? His greatness, for me, pushes him past Jordan. I'm not saying Jordan's not right there with him, but definitely even puts him right at key with him or pushes him a little past, because those last 3 games were fantastic. I've never seen anybody do that.
Yeah, and everybody's gonna say something about Jordan being the greatest. And listen, I was never a Jordan fan when I was a kid. Growing up and actually becoming a better basketball fan, I've learned to respect what Jordan done. Unfortunately, he beat my Utah Jazz a couple of times when I was a kid. I loved the Utah, but I've never seen 2 straight final performances as good as the 2 that LeBron put on back.
And maybe last year could be. Maybe you could make a case that last year's was better, even though he lost.
I mean, it was LeBron last year tried to do it all himself. He got people involved, stuff like that, but he had nobody. This year, he came in, I think, the first 3 games, or the first 2, really, and said, I got players around me this time, thinking about trust. And then those players didn't step up. They went to Cleveland. They finally kind of stepped up, but I think in Game 4, LeBron said, okay, I might have to do this myself. And finally, Kyrie helped him out in Game 5. But 6 and 7, that was just him dominating the game. He made the people say that he's not a clutch player. I've heard people say that his whole career, but he's clutch in different ways. He might not hit a big shot, but I mean, look at that Iguodala block that he was driving down the lane and would have put. I think it would have tied the game in the late fourth quarter in this game 7, and he blocked it. I mean, that's a clutch play. And then he comes back and tries to dunk it and gets fouled and hurts his wrist and comes back and hits one of the free throws. But I mean, he's clutch in different ways that people I don't think have ever seen before.
Well, I think clutch is different ways. I think he's hit his fair share of game-winning shots, but I would say that Jordan and Kobe. I mean, as far as the clutch gene, and if that even exists, those guys have hit. Even I can admit more game winners per se, but clutch can be a couple different things. And to see someone beat a team that only had lost 9 games in the season, 73 wins, broke that mythical number. That number that the Bulls said that nobody thought would ever be broken. Even Bill Simmons in his book said that I think it was the number 2 rated record that would never be broken in his book of basketball. To beat that team 3 times in a row, 2 times on their home floor. Think about that for a second. How good is Golden State at home to be able to win Game 5 on the road, win at home in Game 6, and then come back in a Game 7 and beat a historical team 3 times in a row, 2 of those on the road. That just astounds me. You want clutch? That's clutch. Down 3-1, you have 3 of your best performances of your career against the best team in history at that point as far as regular season. That's amazing to me. And I think that's what makes me mad when people's like, MJ's always better than LeBron. No, not really, because those were just unbelievable performances against a great basketball team.
Oh, yeah. And I see you was talking about a meme earlier. I seen one that said, LeBron won a championship in Game 7 or something like that. And it says, well, Michael never had a Game 7 or something. That's because if you look at it, Michael was always on the better team. Like, Michael was always on the team to beat. Michael Jordan had so much talent around him, and people don't give that credit. And unfortunately, that's all people point out. Well, LeBron had Kyrie, or LeBron had Love didn't have much of a series, but they're gonna say it anyway.
Game 7, he showed up in Game 7.
Yeah, I mean, Love showed up and he had to with 13 rebounds, 14 rebounds, I think, and 9 points. Some of those were double or offensive rebounds and putbacks, but I mean, people. I mean, he had Jordan had Pippen, Jordan had Kerr, Jordan had Grant. Dennis Rodman, Scott Stiles hit a shot there for him. Is that right?
Paxson.
No, Paxson. Yeah, Paxson hit a shot. I mean, he had players around him that if he didn't feel right to take the shot, he could trust. I don't think LeBron ever has had that, even in D-Wade, because when he was down in Miami, D-Wade had old man knees. So, I mean, he's never really had a player that he could trust to take a big shot.
Yeah, we could talk about MJ, versus LeBron, all you want. And that could be a whole different podcast. But let me say this. My wife, Shauna, made a good point. She said, can't everybody just admit that these two are the best players of their generations?
Yeah.
And that's a total, and that's awesome. And I think that's where you need to leave it. Jordan is the best player through the 90s. LeBron James has been the best player in the 2000s by far.
No. Let's say this. Jordan's best player in the 90s. Kobe's probably the best player in the 1000s. And LeBron, LeBron came in at 03. I mean, we'll give LeBron his credit in the 2000s, but I think LeBron in like the 10s has been the best player.
Yeah, we can say that. But we'll just say in their generation of players, you could probably say that those two are the best players we've ever seen in each of their generations.
Yeah.
And I love Kobe. Well, I don't love Kobe, but Kobe's, I respect Kobe as a great scorer. But I still think LeBron James is a better basketball player. 100 times. If you gave me a pick between young Kobe and young LeBron James, I'm picking LeBron James every time.
All the time.
We can argue about or discuss, about who the best player is, but both those guys are equally great right now. For me personally, I think LeBron's the best player I've ever seen. For some of our buddies, they think that MJ's the best, and both have legitimate arguments to being the greatest of all time. But let me say this: if you're one of those people that just hates LeBron James for some reason or another, and thinks that and MJ's the end all and be all of basketball, you are missing one of the greatest players to ever play this game. And when you look back, I did this with Jordan. Joe talked about it. I was not a huge Jordan fan when he came back. and that roughly is probably his most dominant time. I regret not being a Michael Jordan fan or appreciating Michael Jordan more than that. You're on that verge where when you look back, say, man, I missed one of the best players to ever play the game. So take a look at, readjust yourself. You don't have to like LeBron James. You can think he's a crybaby, just like every other player in the league. But at least appreciate what he does on the floor, because what he does, his body type, and what he does on the floor has been absolutely amazing.
And I want to hit one point.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but you said something about how people thought Kyrie should have been MVP. If you did not give LeBron MVP of this series, it would have been a kick in the groin to all basketball fans, I think. He should have won it last series when he was in it, but they gave it to AI or Andre Iguodala. But I mean, Iggy had a good defensive series, but man alive, if there was ever a case that somebody should have been 2 back-to-back Finals MVPs, one on a losing it and one coming and winning it, it should be LeBron.
Well, let me say this, because we're going to, hey, if you want to send us some hate mail, it's monstergeek@gmail.com, and tell us we're all LeBron, at least us two are LeBron lovers. That's perfectly fine. I'm okay with loving the best player I've ever seen. Let's talk about Kyrie, and let's talk about even more towards an MVP for LeBron James, is because I feel like when LeBron really started to step up and be this superhero-esque basketball player, something clicked for Kyrie. Like when especially after, I say probably game 3, he started kind of coming out of it a little bit. But game 5, he went just in fuego. And that's when LeBron James got that early start, and he started kind of getting going early. And I think that you can blame Draymond a little bit for this, but it got LeBron going. And Kyrie looked at LeBron and was like, I want to follow this guy. I want to get on his cape, and I'm going to follow him, let him do the offense, and I'm just going to do what I do. And Kyrie just came alive. And look, I was a Kyrie hater at the first of it. You can go back to when we talked about the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. Kyrie had 2 of the worst games I've ever seen. He didn't look inspired. Something around the nature, and I don't know if LeBron got him in a room and was like, hey, man, I need you to step up and do this because I'm about to go off. And if you're not with me, just stay out of the way. But I need you to come with me. And Kyrie just came with him. And it was an amazing – I've never seen 2 players like that just at the same time just click. And it was just – and you even seen LeBron. Hey, when Kyrie was going, LeBron deferred. LeBron was like, hey, man, go for it. And he roasted Steph Curry. He roasted Steph Curry. Anytime that he was on him, you could see Kyrie's eyes light up because he knew, I want to take it this way. I'm going to take it on my leg. And everything was just clicking. Talk about Kyrie's performance, even though I still believe LeBron James is MVP, but Kyrie Irving was absolutely flat out amazing as well.
The one shot that comes to my mind when I think about the finals with Kyrie is Game 7, that 3-pointer he hit. I think I probably woke my neighbors up when that went in. But I can remember Klay Thompson was on him. I think it was J.R. Smith came over and set a screen and got Curry on him. It's like as soon as Curry got on him, I mean, Kyrie was like, okay, I'm shooting this. And right in his eye. And it was good defense. I mean, it was nothing against Curry, but, I mean, Kyrie, it was like since Game 5, 6, and 7 just had his number. And I mean, as soon as he got on him, you saw that twinkle in his eye, and you saw the confidence, and he put it up, and I mean, he put it right in his eye. I mean, it was a pretty shot.
Yeah, I think that one thing that it just seemed like in games, especially in games 5, 6, and 7, that the Warriors would make a push, and then all of a sudden Kyrie would hit a shot, even if it's just like a mid-range jumper. But he would stop the bleeding. Like they'd make a run to get it within 8. Kyrie would hit a 3 to push out to 11. They'd make a run to get it to 7. Kyrie would hit a 2 to push it back out to 9. It just seems like he was like, hey, I'm going to take this shot. And, Kyrie has a really good jumper. Now, Kyrie can get all out of control. And I thought he played much better under control in games 5, 6, and 7. I thought that he there was a couple of times where he got in trouble and he passed out instead of in games 1 and 2 just jacking up a shot. I thought he got smarter as the series went along, but it just seems like when they needed him to score the most, he scored the most. And, we talked about LeBron's block, and that's what set that up. But it took a lot of guts for him to launch that three, because when he put that up, I thought, oh no, Kyrie. And when it hit, I went nuts. Like I was like, oh man, it's an awesome shot after an awesome block. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. So big ups to Kyrie. You look at that backcourt, and LeBron averaged 29.7 points a game, and Kyrie averaged 27.1. An amazing performance by that backcourt, and really outshined what a lot of people thought was the best backcourt in basketball in Thompson and Curry. And I'm not letting Thompson off the hook either, because when he started talking about being better than Showtime and LeBron was a crybaby and got his feelings hurt, he helped just as much as Draymond. So, Thompson, you're just as much at fault as Draymond is on this getting a little bit too cocky. Just Kyrie's performance was amazing. And another guy that I thought played really well was Tristan Thompson.
Oh, he was lights out.
Me and you both said that Tristan Thompson would have to play big. He averaged about 10 boards. Let's see. He averaged, I was looking at rebounds. He had 27 offensive rebounds, 44 defensive rebounds. Looking for his average. I don't see. Oh, here we go. Total rebound, about 10 rebounds a game. And he was just dominant on the glass. It was one of those games where, he just, when they went to that small lineup, Tyronn Lue made a great, and we'll talk about his philosophy on offense a little bit, that got, that really kind of beat Golden State on the defensive end. But Tristan Thompson, I thought, he just was a madman on the boards. And when they went with that small lineup, he was the guy that kind of negated that being played a lot. Now, you can say, Bogut, me and Andrew talked about how big the Bogut injury was, before. And I think it was kind of big because once Bogut went out, LeBron just was like, I'm just going to the rack. Like, there's no one there to stop me. They have no one to stop me. If you put a Zealy on me, I'm going to wear him out. Joe, talk about the Bogut injury and how big that was. Talk about Tristan Thompson, because even when Bogut was in there, I thought Thompson did a really good job of just negating the paint.
The Bogut injury was huge because, that's the only big body shot blocker that they really had. And like you said, when Festus was on LeBron, it was lights out. I think it was game 6 or maybe in game 7 when LeBron pump faked on the 3-point line. Festus left his feet and LeBron leaned into him, got the foul. And Jeff Van Gundy was like, why do you leave your feet there? He hasn't hit a 3-pointer the whole game. Exactly. And the next series, they switch Festus back on LeBron, and LeBron pulls up and hits a 3 right in his face. So, I think I don't think Bogut would have been any better in that situation. But, like you said, in the lane, Bogut takes up a lot of space. We saw in the first 2 games, I think Bogut had like 4 straight blocks or something in game 2. But the Tristan Thompson, not only board wise, but we saw him go out on the perimeter and guard Steph at like half court. Mm-hmm. He's that athletic of a big man, to guard a guard like that. And let's see, it was game 6. He was guarding Steph out on about half court, and Steph started doing his dribble. Thompson stayed right with him, and Steph put up a 3, and Thompson had a hand in his face, and he missed it. It was great defense. I think the commentators was even going on about it, about how great of defense he played on them. So, it just wasn't boards. It's not points. It's when you can play defense and actually stop, and that's what we saw. From the difference between the first 2 games to game 3, we saw the defense pick up. Game 4, like you said, they let them back in late in the 4th. And then from 5, 6, and 7, that defense was just incredible. Not letting their players come off the screens. Not letting them have an empty, wide open shot. And when they did have a wide open shot, somebody was always running at them. Yep. So it was great defensive play. And then I don't think I've ever seen in 3 games that great of a defense played. And even in game 7, I know it was close, but it was still, that great defense that helped win that game.
Well, I think what you saw with Cleveland is, they just hunkered down. And Cleveland's not, and let's just kind of throw that out there, Cleveland's not a great defensive team. They're just not. They're not, they're not the bottom feeders, obviously, on defense, but they're kind of middle of the road versus a team that has kind of staked their claim not only on the 3-point shot and a dynamic offense, but they can play defense. And I thought that Cleveland obviously they got a little bit lucky. There were some open shots there that Curry missed. There were some open shots that Thompson missed, but a lot of that has to be equated to the defense and what kind of mindset. I talked a little bit with Andrew last night, and he wished he could be here, but he couldn't be here today. He talked about, I said Steph Curry, and we talked about how Cleveland kind of got, started really rushing Steph Curry. And I think Steph Curry started questioning how he was going to get his shot. And even at an open shot, he was just missing. Like, he was missing badly. Like, there was nothing. Those 30-foot jumpers that were going in was clanging. Even when he was wide open, he was missing shots. And I think that defense, because they ran so many guys at him, Oklahoma City ran Steven Adams at him a lot. And I think, Cleveland looked at that and was like, maybe we should just start running people at him. And they did. And other guys didn't miss shots, didn't make shots. Draymond had a great Game 7, but Thompson really wasn't effective in Game 7. Curry was definitely not effective in Game 7 as far as what we expect from a unanimous MVP. And, Joe, you're right. If LeBron did that, people would be absolutely murdering him on social media. And it just seems like Steph Curry, some people have questioned him as far as the unanimous MVP, but really he hasn't been killed in the media as much as, at least what I've seen, as much as LeBron would have. But I thought they did a really good job. I thought Tyronn Lue just said, hey, we're going to man him up. I know Tristan Thompson can guard him. Kevin Love had probably one of the best defensive sequences of his career in Game 7. And LeBron guarded him, and Kyrie did a decent job of at least funneling him into uncomfortable situations. I just think they got in Steph Curry's head, and then Steph Curry got in his own head, and that was all she wrote.
You mentioned that Kevin Love series, and I think I texted you. He was like, oh, my God, don't tell me Kevin Love can't play defense.
But listen, that was a great, and look, he's not going to be defensive player of the year. No. But that was him just being like, look, I've had a terrible series. I've really turned it around in Game 7. I want to guard this guy, and if I have to punt him in the first row, he's not going to make that 3-point shot.
And that's a big thing that you can look at the first two games, because they switched every single time at half court. They would come down, they'd switch, and that was a big thing, and I think that's one reason why they lost those two games, is because they were switching so much. And then I think it was Game 3 they played more man, and then Game 4 they played a lot of man, but like you said, they let them come back in the fourth. And then 5, 6, and 7, I mean, that's all they did. They was running people at people. They were if they were just playing solid man defense, and
it was physical with Steph. I mean, they bounced them around a little bit, and really, even though Golden State has, I'm only going to get on my tangent about moving screens, but I thought that they did a great job of physically trying to get over the screens and making it hard for him to get space.
I have a video of Iman Shumpert. Trying to set a screen, and Steph Curry just pushing him.
Yeah.
Like, and they called an offensive foul when Shumpert was trying to get possession of the screen.
I'm not even going to talk about Bogut moving 5 feet with his butt out, and that's a screen for some reason. But we won't talk about that. That could be a podcast by itself.
But they I think LeBron got in Curry's head. LeBron had some huge blocks on him in the lane, especially in Game 7. He had a block on him, and I don't think LeBron even said anything. He just smiled, and Curry bumped him and was like talking trash, and LeBron was just sitting there smiling. But in Game 6, LeBron had a block, and he was just talking trash. Like, he was all in his head. One
of the things that LeBron did that I thought was funny, but when you look back in retrospect, Steph Curry, even on a dead ball layup, can get going. And there was a play, I think it was Game 5, if I'm not mistaken. No, it was Game 3. It's Game 3. And Steph tried to lay it up after the foul was called, and LeBron just pinned it on the backboard and was like, you know what? I'm not even going to let you get going. I know just one layup can get you going. And I thought that was the mindset from Game 3 on for LeBron. It's like, I don't care if it's dead ball or whatever. This is going to my house, and you're just going to have to abide by my rules. And he did. And he blocked Steph Curry 3 or 4 times, or 2 or 3 times from 5 to 7. I mean, he was just all over him. He was trailing him. He was trying to make plays. I think LeBron took personally that everybody thought, Steph Curry had passed him up, and he showed everybody that he's still got a lot left.
I agree.
One thing that they did, I thought, is going to be the blueprint of how to beat the Warriors. We talked about the physical defense, but Tyronn Lue did something that from Game 1 on, and he never quit. He never stopped it. was that he got Seth Curry in some really bad defensive situations. They would get him on Kyrie, which had a step on him and did it the whole series, at least from game 3 on. And then they would get him in post situation with LeBron. Now, there were some games where he had 3 fouls in the first half because they were switching off LeBron. I thought the Warriors did a terrible job of letting them do it over and over and over again. And I think, Tyronn Lue's thought process was, I've got the best player in the world, and I'm going to switch. And we all know Stephen Curry, they try to hide him on defense. He's not a bad defender. He can steal the ball. He's very quick, but he's not a physical defender. You get him on someone that's a little bit quicker than he is, he can get burnt. And especially with LeBron's case, you outweigh him by almost 100 pounds at that point, can really push him around. And I thought that Steve Kerr never addressed it. He never addressed anything. And Tyronn Lue was like, hey, if you want to keep letting me do it, I'm just going to do it. And I thought that was a blueprint on how to get Golden State and how to really kind of negate that great defense is just switch. Get Steph Curry on someone he can't handle.
The only thing that Steve Kerr addressed was the officiating.
I don't like Steve Kerr. I think Steve Kerr's a good coach, and I liked him in the booth. I think he's a great color commentator or analyst. But I thought that Steve Kerr paid too much attention to the refs, and Tyronn Lue was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing it because apparently you're not going to stop it.
Well, you go back to Game 6, the infamous Game 6. Should Steph Curry be suspended or not for throwing the mouthpiece? But he had 3 fouls that were, that were good fouls, good calls. He had 3 more that were idiotic on his part.
Right.
Like there was like 2 reach-ins, and then maybe him jumping up to maybe try and swat somebody, I think. And then, people saying that it was rigged. I mean, go back and watch those fouls that he had. Now there was one that was maybe questionable. I think LeBron done something, and it maybe should have been an offensive foul, but Steph was back there reaching in as well, so they called it on the defense. But I mean, you got to be, and if they were talking about how Steph Curry was one of the smartest players in the league when it comes to defense and how he don't pick up fouls and stuff like that. And then you have 2 straight games where you foul out one game and then you have 3 fouls in the first half of the Game 7 because you're trying to reach in, you're trying to do too much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame Steph Curry for trying to do too much. At that point, I think they'd hit the panic button by Game 5 anyway. And maybe even Game 6, especially with Draymond coming in. I think Game 6 they were already in panic mode, especially after they got blown out. I don't blame him for trying his best. I'm not a Steph Curry hater. I think Steph Curry's a great shooter. I think Steph Curry just could not get going because of the fact that they bumped him in the lane. He had very little layup time to get going, and you'll easy. Joe, you mean our grandfather, we love him to death, but he said, don't start shooting jumpers, get in the lane, get some easy ones, and start get rolling a little bit. And Steph Curry never got rolling. I mean, he never got rolling. He never got easy putbacks. He never got easy layups. In games 1 and 2, he did, but from 3 on, they was hounding him, and he never got in a rhythm. And sometimes instead of shooting 30-foot threes to get in a rhythm, you can get layups. You can get little give and goes to get for little jumpers. But he had to rely on 3-pointers and long jumpers, and he just could never get going. And you got to credit Cleveland for being like, nope, you're not getting in the lane. You're going to shoot threes all year. You're going to die by the 3. And in games, especially in Game 6 and 7, he was just all over the place.
That's the one thing Tyronn Lue done that I liked. The big change was he noticed in the first 2 games when he ran Curry off of little screens. Curry got that mid jumper that he started hitting that jumper and he started getting more confidence. Mm-hmm. And he started running that more. And as the game progressed, he got more confidence. Steve Kerr should have took that. Set a screen, get him just some mid shots. Stop trying to get him 3-pointers. Get him some mid jumpers. Let him get his stroke going, and then let him start shooting the threes.
Yeah, Kyrie's games really started going with the short jumpers, and that opened up the lane. He started driving, then he started hitting some 3-pointers, which we all talk about Steph Curry and Thompson shooting 3-pointers. Kyrie's a pretty daggum good 3-point shooter in his own right. But you're right. Yeah, I think he did a great job of getting Kyrie in a rhythm. And LeBron, once he saw that he was in that rhythm, kind of said, "Hey, man, keep going." And there was times where you just saw Kyrie, and he was hitting everything from here to Cleveland to Montana.
I mean, we knew he could do it. There was no question about.
He's a great player, and even I said it when I was aggravated with him. he's a great player. I mean, he scored 50 points a couple of times. I mean, as a scorer, he's absolutely amazing. But games 1 and 2, he had me so aggravated because of the fact that he can be great.
Yeah, I mean, he went down to San Antonio and scored 61 last year. I mean, and even when he was in Cleveland by himself, and we knew he could score because he carried that team by himself too. Not that anywhere as close as before, but yeah, I mean, we knew he could score. I think overall, game 4 game 5 when they both scored 41. We've seen him pass the ball a little bit better and get confidence passing the ball. And I think he got confidence distributing from 5 through 7. So that helped him out too.
And he didn't have big assists. I mean, he had like 4 assists a game. But like you said, from game 3 on, it just seems like if he got in the lane, he found Tristan Thompson or he found somebody out on the arc to get a better shot. And I thought that he just, as the series kind of went along, he kind of grew up into more of a player that can make plays without necessarily scoring. Even though the bulk of his plays were scoring, he just, I don't know, maybe it was LeBron, what he was doing, I don't know, but something just clicked for him, and he started making some plays, even passing the ball.
I think he tried too hard first 2 games.
I think he did too. I agree.
He came in, he's injured on the first game of last season, and I think that really bothered him because he wasn't there to help LeBron last year. And I think he tried too hard to start doing stuff 1-2. And then when game 3 came around, he got more confidence because it was at home. And I think Tyloo sat him down and, just talked to him because, I mean, Tyloo's been there before. That's a coach that's been in the finals, that's played those big games, and, got knocked down and stepped over and just, had to come back from that. And I think he sat him down and really just, calmed him down and said, hey, man, stop pushing it. It'll come. And he started setting those screens for him. He started getting that little mid-range J going. And as soon as that mid-range J started going, man, that's when I knew his game was started.
I think the unsung hero of this finals we haven't really talked about. We talked about Tristan Thompson, of course, LeBron and Kyrie having an unbelievable series. But I thought Richard Jefferson.
Oh, my gosh,
really well. If we talked about Andre Iguodala last year and somebody just a veteran kind of stepping up, Richard Jefferson played extremely well. Defensively played well. He rebounded. I thought that he was agile going to the rim. There's a lot of give and goes or him just slicing through that LeBron found him.
Well, he had
but his jumper was a little bit off here or there, but he had some mid-range stuff when he was open. I thought Richard Jefferson played a great series. He basically played what Andre Iguodala did last year.
There was an old Richard Jefferson moment when he drove through the lane and dunked the ball.
Yeah. I thought, crap, that's like Richard Jefferson like circa 2003 or something.
Yeah, I looked at my calendar. I was like, is he still with the Nets? But, I mean, that's another thing. Richard Jefferson's been there before.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he had to face some pretty good Lakers teams. Even though, dude, those Lakers and Knicks series, that Knicks team was a great team.
The Nets team, yeah.
Yeah, that Nets team was awesome.
And if it was anybody but that Lakers team, they would have won at least one of them.
Yes, I agree. But, man alive, I think that's what helped out too, because I think he helped calm them down a little bit too, like all the players. I think he maybe calmed LeBron down some, and really got him kind of focused on, hey, just chill.
Well, I think you look at that team, and there's 2 guys. Jefferson's one of them, and James Jones. I mean, I've read so many articles about James Jones and how he never gets to play that much anymore, but he's just such a professional. And he just conducts himself like a professional NBA player should. And I think those guys are invaluable. I mean, James Jones is going to be a free agent. Guess what? He's going to be back next year. That's somebody you spend money on to bring back. Well,
I think James Jones is kind of like LeBron's. What's the Peanuts character that always has the blanket?
Linus.
Yeah, I think James Jones is LeBron's blanket.
There you go. That's a good analogy. I like that.
I mean, he's been with them all 6 times he's been to the finals, his last 6 times. And who was the first person that LeBron went to find? James Jones. So, I mean, I think that's his blanket. That's his. I'm not going to call him a security blanket, but I think he feels comfortable with them on the team. And I think if anybody can actually sit down and talk to LeBron one-on-one and say, what really needs to be said, it's going to be James Jones.
Yeah. Let's talk about Golden State for a little bit, because obviously, I've never seen a team that went from being so feared to mortal. Like it was, and even when, I told Andrew we were talking, and I even talked to you about it as well. I felt like that they got really cocky after those first two games. And I've said before, I didn't think Golden State would win a championship because I didn't like how they played at the last of last year, or the end of the year. I just thought that they didn't really play with it. Just trying to there was a 3-2 or 2-2 or something like that near the end of the season. They played some good teams with the Spurs and the Grizzlies, and they didn't look like the Golden State. They had that fire throughout the year. I thought Oklahoma City took a lot out of them. I was very surprised with games 1 and 2, how they kind of came out. And I'm not taking anything away. They won 73 games. They came back from their own 3-1 deficit to get into the finals. Games 1 and 2 were amazing. I think they were a little bit lucky in game 4 that the Cavs kind of got willy-nilly on defense and allowed some open shots. But, man, this is a team. It's a very good basketball team that games 5, 6, and 7. I told you and I told Andrew, I said, they're up 3-1. They're already talking about Showtime Lakers. They're poking fun at LeBron. Draymond gets in trouble in game 4 and gets suspended. I feel like that it was almost like, we're up 3-1. We'll get Draymond back in game 6. So if he loses, game 5, we're okay. And they lost game 5. And then once they lost game 5, it's like, oh, well, if we don't win game 6, we go back home. We have the home field advantage. We're awesome at home. They lose game 6. So now it's a game 7 at home. And all of a sudden, they're all out of sorts. Like they ended up, I feel like they almost had, oh, this is the backup plan. And this is, plan C if we don't. We'll get game 7 at home or whatever. And by the time game 7 rolled around, even though that was a good competitive game 7, the Cavs knew they could beat them. Like you could see in the Cavs' eyes, these guys aren't as good as they think they are. Like they're not immortal. And they came out and just game 7 was just, if you would have told me that the game 7 came down to the last 3 minutes and somebody needed to make a bucket, I'd have told you the way Golden State always plays in the clutch, I thought that it was going to be trouble once they tied it up with about 3 minutes left. But they just couldn't hit a shot, and they couldn't get going, and they never got going. And Cleveland just, hey, we can beat you guys. And I just thought that they never had a sense of urgency to close out the series, especially. And I told you, if they got to game 6, this series was going to go to game 7 because there was no way that Cleveland was going to lose in Cleveland. What do you think? Do you think they just kept going, kept having a backup plan until they got to game 7? Was like, oh crap, we're in trouble.
I don't know if it was more that, or if it's just more the fact that the Cavs started rolling.
Do you think they got scared of LeBron? Because we've seen teams get scared of Steph Curry and just be like, holy crap, we can't beat him. Steph Curry's just too good. But now they have a player that is better than Steph Curry when he's going. Do you think they looked at that and was like, holy crap, like we got this machine rolling and now we can't get it to stop? Are we really going to be able to beat this team?
When Bogut went down, that's when they was like, oh crap, we can't stop LeBron.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to stop him in the middle. I mean, nobody's going to stop him in the paint. And I think, I think LeBron kind of looked too. It's like, if we can get them here, I face a lot better teams than this team. Mm-hmm. Especially I think that Oklahoma City team that LeBron beat in Miami, the Heat beat. I'm not gonna say LeBron beat, but the Heat beat in Miami. I think they were a better team than this.
Possibly, I think Golden State was probably a better team. But I think that Spurs team that they beat in 2013, mm-hmm. I thought that I think that's a better team than what Golden State was. Because they came off what they win like 28 in a row or something,
it was,
or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember. But that was a really good basketball team that was playing really good basketball.
And technically, if it wasn't for Ray Allen and Chris Bosh, they would have lost.
Right, I mean, exactly.
So, but anyway, but I think LeBron just kind of hunkered down, and I think he got in their heads. Mm-hmm. And game 4, like you said. They came back and won, but when Draymond went out, they was like, okay, well, we lost Bogut. Now Draymond's suspended for a game. What are we going to do with LeBron?
Well, and I think they looked at it and was like, well, we're still up 3-1. Like, if you got something going with them, we're up 3-1. And I think they just I think there was a good article. I didn't read it, but the headline was that the Golden State Warriors went from to underdogs to heroes to villains in a course of a year. And I think they just got too cocky. And I think things started happening. I mean, we looked at that season, and you look at something like the Bulls did, and you say you can't have injuries. Well, Golden State didn't have injuries until that first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talked about if Curry went down or even had just a little bit of a nick, or if one of those guys went down that messed up their game plan, Bogut went down, they lost Draymond. I don't think Steph Curry was completely healthy. I think he still had some knee issues and the fact he started getting in his head and LeBron got in his head. I think he had some injury issues. Not making excuses for him, but I do believe he wasn't completely healthy. I just think they got cocky after those first 2 games. And to be quite honest, they have a right to, sure. But here's a team that knows what it's like to win and knows how to close it out. In those last 3 games, LeBron was on fire, and they had no urgency to close out a game before Game 7. And by the time they got done, LeBron was already going, and Kyrie.
All I'm saying is I don't care if Curry wasn't fully healthy. Michael Jordan had a flu game that he got carried off at the end of that he played fantastic in. So if you're not win MVP, you got to play like an MVP.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Steph Curry will learn from this. I think he's still a great basketball player. I think he'll learn to expand his game and get better. But you got to step up, man. I thought Klay Thompson played well in games 5, 6, and 7. Obviously, I thought that he kind of stepped up. I thought he defended really well, minus his a little bit of smack talk he had. I thought that they did. I thought he did a pretty good job there. But yeah, Steph Curry just didn't show up. And he missed some open shots. I think that's when we started thinking, wow, if he keeps missing open shots like that, the Cavs with LeBron and Kyrie rolling, they actually have a pretty good chance.
It just wasn't Klay talking trash. It was his daddy, too.
That's true.
So I wonder if that was ever brought up. Like LeBron's like, hey, Klay, why your daddy talking trash?
Yeah. I'm sure LeBron's like, you better tell your dad to shut up, boy. But I thought Golden State just lost it. I just think that they never played with any urgencies those last 3 games, and always had an excuse that we'll get Draymond back or we have Game 7. And I told Andrew, I said that's what they're going to have to watch. I mean, they have this 3-1 lead. It gives you lulls you into this false sense of security, and it's the NBA, man. Everybody makes a run, and especially when you're playing high, you're playing to the best players in the league with a team that's on a roll. You get beat, and they got beat. I mean, that's flat out. They just got beat, and they have they let the best player in the world beat them, and they didn't have any urgency. And
they got out-hearted in the last 3 games.
They sure did. I agree 100%. If you'd have told me that any team would have out-hearted them, especially after the Cavs quit in Game 2, I mean, that's just what they did. And I think that's why people started questioning whether the Cavs could win a championship. 5, 6, and 7, LeBron James showed a ton of heart, and the rest of his team just latched on and was like, hey, man, we got a ton of heart too, and they beat them. And Golden State, the Cavs stopped the dynasty. Like, if Golden State would have won, I don't know if they would. I think they would have won at least 2 more championships with it. And that's something that we want to do an MJ LeBron comparison. They both did the same thing. MJ stopped the Lakers, for his first championship, and now you look at LeBron. And LeBron, for his 3rd, stopped a budding dynasty. Now, I'm not saying Golden State can't win another one, but he was like, and he put a stop to it right there.
Technically, for his 6th or for his 2nd one, he stopped the Spurs.
That's true.
So, I mean, he really stopped 2 dynasties because the Spurs won the year before, too. So,
but I just think that, Golden State's got a lot of self-reflection to see what they have to do. But let's move on to the NBA draft. Congrats to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was extremely happy for my boy LeBron James, and just that city in general. Listen, I've said this 1,000 times. I'm not a franchise guy. When Penny was in Orlando, I rooted for him. When when Iverson was in Philly, I rooted for Philly. When LeBron was in Cleveland, I rooted for him. When he went to Miami, I rooted for him. I'm a player guy, and I'm not going to act like I've always been a Cleveland fan because I haven't. But for that city, that was great for him to bring that championship home, the team to bring it home. And I'm super glad for both LeBron and Cleveland. That's a city that definitely deserves a championship. So, hello, Cleveland.
I think that's something that we can both say is we've never really been franchise guys. We've always
we follow players. I like watching Penny Hardaway. I like watching Iverson, and I love watching LeBron. And I've always been a player guy in the NBA.
I mean, I think the Timberwolves are the only franchise that I really kept up with, and that's because I like the way that they're going, and I like the way that they play. So
we'll talk about the Wolves in this next segment. Great segue into the 2016 NBA draft, which was a little bit more surprising than what we thought it was going to be as far as what we're looking at here. Joe, looking at the list there, I want to let you kind of start it off because I've got to get my list back here. What did you think about the NBA draft? You use at work, so I was kind of following it, and you just kind of now looking at the list. Some interesting picks there.
Yeah. Of course, the top two, we knew those: Ben Simmons, Brennan Ingram. The one that surprised me was really the Celtics.
Jaylen Brown. Yeah, I was surprised with that too.
Because I thought they would go Marquise Chris from Washington there. He has a tremendous upside, and they need a bigger player down low. And Chris is one of those players that can play the 4 and a 5 spot.
A lot of comparisons to Amari Stoudemire with him.
Yep.
A lot of comparisons to Amari Stoudemire.
The other one, I'm surprised Chris Dunn actually kind of fell down to the Wolves. That's the one that I wanted to see come to the Wolves. Him or Jamal Murray. And then, of course, I think New Orleans may have missed their pick. They got Buddy Hield. I think the thing with Buddy Hield is I think he really peaked already in college. I think he's not going to be a great player. I think he'll be a good player because he can spot up and shoot. But I think they missed an epic opportunity in drafting Murray with the 6th pick, which the Denver right after Denver drafted Murray, which is like 4 point guards in 4 years or something. But the thing with Murray, he's not really a point guard. He can play shoot guard too. He's a little small shoot guard, 6'4", but man, the kid can shoot.
Well, I think you look at the draft. I think let me talk about the Hield and Murray kind of switch there. I think Buddy Hield is a more polished defender. Jamal, that was really what kept Jamal Murray probably out the top 3. Was he's a horrendous defender. Takes bad angles. He plays flat-footed. I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I look at I listen to a ton of podcasts on the NBA draft because usually I'm behind on some of these guys. Watch a lot of film. Jamal Murray, as far as the film that I saw and a lot of the analysts, was that he's just terrible defensively. There was times when he just got flat out burnt, and you can teach somebody a new jumper, or you can teach somebody how to be offensive, but it's hard to get a player that struggles on defense to be a better defensive player. You can teach Tony Allen to hit a corner 3, or you can teach Bruce Bowen to hit a corner 3, but Murray, it's hard to teach somebody defensively, and a lot of times it's not like, the film that I saw, it's not like it is a lack of effort. He's just naturally not a good defender. It's kind of like Kevin Love. Kevin Love gives, tries, but he's just not a naturally good defender. And I think that's the reason they took Buddy Hield. I think he gets the scoring and the defense. I'm not a huge fan of Buddy Hield. I think he's a one-dimensional type of guy. I think he can play a little bit of defense, but a little bit more defense than what Murray can. And I'm glad he got drafted. Kid seems to be super good. But I think he's like a Jamal Crawford. I don't think he's going to be anything super special, and I hope he is. I'm not saying that I never, these guys. And I've always said this: we may analyze the crap out of these guys, but we want them to be successful. We want them to be an elite player if they can get there. I just don't feel like Buddy Hield is that elite player. I don't think he's a top 10 talent. I think he's more of a top 15 maybe, but a top 10, I'm not totally for sure.
Now, the one thing I'll say is Jamal Murray is only 18. He's not even.
He has a lot of time. Right.
He's got a lot of time, and with the right coaches and everything, he can learn the proper angles to play defense. He can learn that.
You can just stay in front of people. Just stay in front of people. That's all you have to do. They're going to hit amazing shots, but don't let them have don't make them have to let them hide you on defense because you can't even stay in front of somebody.
The kid's got wingspan for days, though.
Sure would. Yeah, he does.
Now, the two I think that are great picks is Denver got Malik Beasley out of Florida State. Kid can shoot the ball. He hit like 40% of his 3-pointers this season as a freshman, which is unheard of. So he can shoot the ball. He had a stress fracture in his foot, so that's why he fell as low as he did. And then you have Chris Levert from Michigan. That dude is going to be something special. Of course, he was hurt too, but the dude's 6'7". He plays shooting guard. I mean, if he didn't get hurt, I'm trying to think about his what it was. It might have been a foot as well. No, leg injury is what it was. If he didn't get hurt, that's a top 10 player that the Pacers got at number 20. So those two picks, I think there's something to watch right there.
Let me just say this for the Lakers. I love Brandon Ingram. I absolutely love this kid. He reminds me a lot of Kevin Durant. I think Ben Simmons. I think those two, you're looking at a 1-2. That's going to be superstars. I think both of them's great. I think the 76ers will still try to unload a center. There was a lot of talk with number 3 with Boston. They offered him Nerlens Noel. They offered him Okafor with 2 picks. They was trying to get back into the top 10 to get a shooter. And I think if they would have got back in the top 10, Jamal Murray probably would have went to the 76ers. I think that's the name that had always been bantered. Him or Hield were the two that they talked about. Jaylen Brown was a little bit surprised. We talked about that. I thought Chris Dunn to the Timberwolves. I text you as soon as it happened. Now there's been talk that Thibodeau really wants Jimmy Butler. He loves Jimmy Butler. He wants him in Minnesota. There was talks early on that they were trying everything. The Zach LaVine in the 5th pick was mentioned to get Jimmy Butler here. Now there's been talk that maybe they picked Dunn, even though, obviously a good defender. I mean, they was raving about defending. He's going to be a great offensive player as well, really a good two-way NBA player. Now they're talking about possibly Dunn and LaVine going to Chicago for Jimmy Butler. I don't see it happening. I think once they trade Derrick Rose, they want to try to, unless they get a really good package for Jimmy Butler. So that's still kind of circulating. But you've got one heck of a lineup, and that allows you to have Rubio as a trade bait. I think Dunn could come in and play now. I think Dunn's ready, NBA ready to play now. Opens up maybe to go out and, maybe, kind of put Pekovic and Rubio in a package and see what you can get. It does open up some stuff as far as what they can do. But, man, if they keep Chris Dunn with just the current team they have, that's already a scary team. Now you get, holy crap, this is starting to get to the point where they could be Warrior-esque as far as how they can run their offense and just, run you off the floor.
I think a lot of people, too, forget, that Rubio was a top 4 assist last year. And even Stills, I think he was like top, can't remember, top 8, I think, in Stills last year, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a great defender. The only thing he doesn't have is, and he's working on it, is his offensive jumper. He worked on it a lot last offseason. He's working on it again this offseason. The good thing is, if we don't get Butler, Chris Dunn he's 6'4". He can come in as a shooting guard. We have 2 great ball handlers in now with Rubio. If we done that with Rubio and Dunn there, and that kind of takes the ball out of Dunn's hands and let him move around because he's a great offensive player. And then that lets Wiggins slide over and actually play his natural position as a small forward. So
Rubio was 3rd in the league in steals. He was behind Westbrook or Curry and Westbrook. So very close to Westbrook. I think he's like 1 steal away from getting.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great defender. He's a great passer. He's working on his offensive game. If we don't get Jimmy, which I would love to see us get Jimmy because that gives us something that we really need, and that's a shooting guard that can actually shoot. No offense to Kevin Martin, but he's just a little old now. But I mean, that gives us a shooting guard that can actually drive the lane. We have a good Wiggins. The rumor was the Bulls wanted Wiggins, and Thibodeau's like, no, I'm not giving up Wiggins for him. But
if you're the Bulls, you got to ask that, right?
Oh yeah, you have to ask that because you have to at least get something back. And I think LaVine has upside. Now, if they package LaVine and Dunn, I don't see why not. Because like you said, Dunn is a great player. He's NBA ready. I mean, I would hate to lose Rubio if we did trade Rubio. But I mean, like you said, I think us drafting Dunn, I mean, you talked about it, how the Timberwolves need to go out and get a point guard, maybe like a Matt Conley. Well, with us drafting Gunn, I mean, we picked that up. Great offensive player, great.
And he could play shooting guard if you. I mean,
Yeah.
you could definitely play him and Rubio in the same lineup.
So I mean, I think we that pick was great. I think it was trade bait as well. Just in case they say, okay, yeah, if you give us Dunn and Levine, maybe like Pekovic or maybe a first round pick next year, we'll do it. And
I think that the Bulls have to seriously. I mean, they have to take that offer seriously, because if you look at the NBA now, most of the teams that are making runs have a killer backcourt. It's not front court stuff now; it's backcourt stuff. And if you could get Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn, that sets your backcourt hopefully for years. Like, you have your backcourt for 6, 7, 8, 9 years if you can keep those guys signed under contracts. So it's definitely a good offer. And Jimmy Butler, I mean, to be quite honest, if Minnesota can get him back, I mean, that guy's on a heck of a deal. Like, I think he's under contract till 2019 or something like that, and he's only getting paid $16 million a year. And with that expanded salary cap, that's a heck of a player to come back for only $60 million, not have to worry about signing him for another 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I think it's a deal that Chicago has to, maybe a first round draft pick next year or something. You got to sweeten the pot. But to be quite honest, I don't think the Timberwolves need any more draft picks. They got a young team. Maybe bring it. If you can get Jimmy Butler, that's a scary team in the West, and it's already a scary team. Now you bring in Butler or Dunn, and now they're setting pretty.
It's a very scary team, like you said. Even without Butler, I mean, you have Rubio, Dunn, and Wiggins up top, and then you have if Peck is healthy, you have Pekovic at center and Cat at a 4. And you can even say if Peck's not healthy, I mean, Dang is a defensive nightmare. So
somebody like Biyombo. Could you imagine like Biyombo next to the way he played in the playoffs?
No, I mean we have a guy like that.
Yeah.
Luau, or not Luau, but Ding. He played for Louisville. Remember?
Yeah, I remember. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he last year he came out and he was a very good defensive player. And he's only going to get better at blocking shots and playing down low, and he has a good jump hook. But I mean, you're not going to look for a 5 spot that's going to have offense, because you have so many already offensive players. You have Cat down low that can shoot and run. This team's just going to get out and run.
Yeah,
and then I'll try and get back on defense. It reminds you a lot of the Bulls teams that Thibodeau had. That got out and run, scored, and then
I think they're going to remind us of the Suns if the Suns play defense.
Well, yeah, I mean, when Thibodeau was there and Rose was healthy, and you had Noah, that was a really good defensive player. I'm trying to think who else you had on those teams that year.
Luau Deng was on that team.
Yeah, Luau Deng. They ran; those players ran, and they got back on defense. So you don't really see that. I mean, that year that Rose won MVP, everybody thought they was on win the championship, and then Rose went down to. Is that the year that Rose went down to playoffs?
Yeah, Rose went down in the first round, I believe.
Yeah. So I mean that didn't help them any, but I mean those teams were really good at running and playing defense. Something that the Suns team of old didn't have as defense. So.
One of the picks that I really liked was the Jazz getting Torrin Prince. I watched this kid. I didn't watch him much. I watched him in the Big 12 tournament a little bit. And then in the game where they got upset in the first round of the tournament, I thought he was the only Baylor player that kept working. I was very impressed with his motor. He can shoot a 3-ball a little bit. He's active on the boards. He's kind of a very wide, kind of small forward. I think he fits really well with Favors and Gobert as far as big kind of wing guys. To go with two guys that's not wing guys for Gobert and Favors, but guys with long wingspans that can really score and really get up and down and play defense. I thought I was very impressed. I think he fits perfect with the Jazz. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to trade Favors. Possibly. That's just my personal opinion. I think maybe try to trade him somewhere else. But that team's on. We talked about the Wolves. That team's on the cusp of really doing something great. They played great near the end of the year last year. But I really like that pick. I think he's going to be one of those guys that is really going to surprise some people in that system. I think he went to a great team.
Hey, this just in. The Phoenix Suns got another Kentucky guard.
Did they take a Eulis?
Yeah, it took you.
Oh man, that's 3, right?
That's 3. You got Brandon Knight. I got Knight. Who's the other one?
You got Knight Bledsoe.
Bledsoe, yeah. And now
Now,
you have
rumor
Eulis.
has it. Let's go ahead and talk about trades. But rumor has it that Phoenix is looking to trade one of those guys. It's interesting because Bledsoe and LeBron are pretty good friends, so it may be something that maybe they try to trade. Love's been talked about. If they come to them and say, "Hey, Kevin Love for Bledsoe," we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I like that trade completely, but it could be something. Let's talk about the trades. There are obviously some more than enough. Earlier today, we had Derrick Rose being traded to the Knicks yesterday, and which I think is a great trade for both teams, to be 100% honest. I think Rose is going to be really good in New York. I don't know if this makes New York a championship contender, but it definitely brings in. You look at Porzingis, Carmelo, and Rose, and if Rose can stay healthy, that's a pretty good basketball team if they can mesh. So I kind of like the trade if Derrick Rose can stay healthy. And the Knicks really didn't give up much, and they have a ton of cap space, so they can definitely kind of replace Lopez and replace some guys. And I think that team could be scary good if everybody stays healthy. The other deal was Jeff Teague to the Pacers, George Hill to the Jazz. The Pacers also traded for Thaddeus Young, which is one of Joe's guys. Yep. He loves Thaddeus Young, really likes him. He used to play for the Wolves and he played for the Nets last year, and really is a guy that a lot of people didn't see, but a really good, solid basketball player. Joe, I love what Indiana did. Getting Teague at the point, 2 years younger than what Hill is, adding them to George, and then come around and get Thaddeus Young. That's going to be a really interesting lineup. That's a scary lineup with those guys on the floor.
And not only that, added on top of that, Chris LeVert in the draft. I mean, that's right. a 6'7". That's a 6'7" shooting guard. That if he can get over his injury, that's gonna be able to shoot the ball. I mean, it's gonna be scary.
I think that they're getting guys that can play defense, but when Vogel was there, I mean, they offensively, I remember 2 years ago that their offense got so bad. Like, it was just bad. They played defense. They was winning games like, 80 to 76 and stuff because they couldn't score. They could stop people. They just couldn't score. They went on a terrible, just flat out horrible offensive about a month and really kind of messed them up in the playoffs because they were playing. That was the year that they had the best record and then just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I mean, you talk about a player that went downhill fast. God, what was his name now?
Hibbard.
No, not Hibbard. It was the other kid that played shooting guard for him. You had
Sean Stevenson, or not Stevenson, but
because I remember the Clippers picked him up off free agency.
Yeah, what's his face? Crap.
My God, I can't think of his name. That's how bad. The
guy that blew in LeBron's ear.
Yeah. No.
Oh.
No, not Stevenson.
I can't remember.
Oh my
God. That whole
God.
team just forgot how to shoot.
I'll have to look. I'm gonna try and look him up. You talk.
Other trades that we looked at. The Hornets got Marco Bellinelli from Sacramento, which they was choosing for like the 22nd pick. So, that's basically just a young guy. He can shoot. I don't necessarily. It's not a big trade, but I can see why they made it. The other big one was number 8 overall pick Marquise Chris to the Suns without giving up their number 4 pick, which was the kid from Tel Aviv, big kind of 7'1" Dirk Nowitzki shooter type, European player, which they're all kind of like that. We had a funny discussion about. Europeans being 7'1" that can shoot threes. That's basically what they are. And Fran Fraschilla is really funny because he gets really excited about these guys. And he always says, it's not very often that you find a guy that's 7'1" and shoot 3-pointers. And I said, no, they're all over Europe. This is all they can do is 7'1" guys that can shoot threes. They're all over Europe, to be exact. So
Danny Granger,
that's true. Danny Granger did take a dip.
He took a big dip.
Yeah. So they drafted and they ended up getting Phoenix's 20-something pick and 28th pick, and they ended up getting a couple different things for Chris. And I think Chris is going to be a heck of a basketball player. You put him in a lineup with Bledsoe, and that kid's going to be able to play. And then of course the big trade, which was kind of a, we talked about it earlier about OKC and their collapse in the Western Conference Finals, we all said that Ibaka was the weird guy out. Like if they was going to trade somebody, it'd be Ibaka. So they ended up trading with the Magic. They ended up getting the big piece is Victor Oladipo, which is I was really surprised that the Magic gave up Oladipo. I thought he really kind of came, especially last year, kind of come into his own. I love Ibaka. I don't think it's a great trade for the Magic. I just don't. I don't like the trade at all. I think that they actually take a step backwards in this trade because Ibaka's on the way down. He's never been super good at offense. You know, he would show flashes, but you're really getting a shot blocker and rebounder for a guy in Oladipo that could really be a star. I mean, you know, if he could ever learn either to be a shooting guard or a point guard, he could be a star. Joe, that trade shocked me. I think it's great for OKC. Maybe they're preparing for Westbrook to leave. Maybe, you know, me and a couple people kind of talked about that. But I thought they got a really good young chip. And if they can get Durant back and you put him on the court, maybe playing point guard with Durant and within Westbrook, maybe shuffle him over the two, that team can run. I mean, that's going to be a fun team to watch. They're already fun to watch. But, you know, you add Oladipo, and I think they got a really good player for next to nothing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, Serge was on his way down. We said it in the playoff talk earlier about how he was the odd man out. I think with him, I mean, he can be a stretch four. Then put a three maybe if you want to go big lineup, but he just didn't play well this year with the Thunder. He didn't play up to his ability that he should have played with. But I mean, with Owen Depot, I think you get. I don't know if he'll. I mean, he should start.
Oh, he'll start point guard. There's no way he can't start point guard or shooting guard. He's in the starting lineup. You can't bring Oladipo off the bench.
I mean, they brought James Harden off the bench.
Well, that's true, but James Harden, if he would have stayed, would have started the next year. There's no doubt Lamont would have started.
True.
The other guys in that pickup is Ersan Ilyasova. That was a guy from the Bucks that they got. And then the number one overall pick, which is a really good player in Domantas Sabonis, which is Avita Sabonis' kid. Saw him play a little bit in the tournament. He's an impressive guy. You know, he doesn't have the physical attributes. He doesn't have a huge wingspan, long arms, stuff like that. But that guy has a motor, plays really well. And you've got a really good backup now to Cantor and Steven Adams. They can come off the bench, you know, don't have to start right away. They can really be effective as a sixth man coming off. I just think that Oklahoma City pretty much just stole the. I mean, I have nothing against Serge Ibaka, but Serge Ibaka isn't a guy that you give up those three guys for. You just don't. No. I think that they got so much value out of this. And what did Orlando get? They got one guy that can block shots. That's it.
Well, this is something that OKC and what is the general manager's name there?
Presti.
Presti's trying to rebuild that lineup and saying, "Hey, listen, KD, come back. Look at what we got already in this offseason. You know, we got a great young player in Owen Depot. We've got two really good forwards, and you know, we still have the big Kiwi. We still have Cantor. I mean, they can make a push for the first seed in the NBA again."
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, and you know, I don't know where KD is going. I think the only realistic place for him to go is Golden State, maybe the Lakers, but mostly Golden State. They're going to come really hard at him. And the way Harrison Barnes played in the finals, that really gives them free reign to drop a guy and just be like, "Hey, you just go wherever. We're going to use that money on KD." Maybe the Knicks. I know Phil Jackson told Derrick Rose, it was reported by the Daily News, which you can take that with a grain of salt as far as I'm concerned, that he told Rose he was going to go after KD. I don't know if KD goes to New York. You know, I don't think so.
I don't think he and Melo mesh.
I mean, the Lakers have a bunch of cap space as well. You know, I think it's interesting. You know, I think KD signs that 1 year deal and waits to next year where the cap goes up and, you know, he gets more money, or he goes to Golden State. I think it's OKC or Golden State, and we'll see how it goes. I've said this before that OKC really looks like Orlando. If you haven't seen the 30 for 30 on the Orlando Magic, they're kind of in the same boat right now. You know, KD is kind of their Shaq and Westbrook's kind of their Penny, and you know, they're going to try to figure out how to keep both of those guys. But If Golden State comes really hard at Durant has no reason not to leave OKC. I mean, to go there. And they're automatically, title contenders again with or without him. But as far as Golden State, but I think OKC did. I think getting Oladipo. I love Oladipo. I think Oladipo because he's stashed over in Orlando, nobody gets to see him. But I think that's a great pickup. And I think you're right, Joe. I think you're trying to show, hey, maybe we jumped the gun on Harden a little bit. We're trying to bring in another guard for you, and they can really run up and down with that lineup. But I don't think KD goes anywhere for at least a year, and then after that he kind of looks around and sees where he needs to go.
Well, I mean, Boston's going to make a big push for him.
Boston will. Boston's got a ton of picks and a young basketball team. He could really be the alpha dog up there. Like they don't have an alpha dog. That's what they need.
Besides Isaiah Thomas. I mean, Isaiah Thomas is the spoken leader of that team, but like you said, it's not really that. And the fact that they have a young coach in Brad Stevens that is really – I mean, his first year he took a Celtics team that was crap and took him to the playoffs as an 8 seed his first year, and then took him again this year. And they really don't – Isaiah Thomas is the only household player. I don't even know if you can call Isaiah Thomas a household player yet that's on their team.
Right.
So –
what are you talking about? They got Jared Sullinger, man.
Oh, yeah, Sullinger, yeah. And Kenny Olynyk or whatever his name is. But
Kelly Olynyk.
Olynyk, yeah, sorry. Gonzaga guy, he can shoot threes. There's another 7-footer that can shoot threes. But I mean, I wouldn't mind to see KD go to the East.
I think he could. I think it's the easier route in the East. All you have to get by is Cleveland. And if you go to somewhere like, the Knicks that have Derrick Rose and Carmelo and Porzingis, that's a pretty potent lineup. Yeah, it's already I think could be a potent lineup. But then you throw in KD, and I mean that's a really good lineup.
I think KD wants to go somewhere where he's the guy.
I think so, and I think Boston is great for that. I think Boston or even LA. I think he could go to the Lakers and really resurrect that franchise. And I've said it before. I don't think that anybody can rule out the Lakers for KD. Now it may not be this year, but definitely next year. With as much cap space as they have. So I think it's going to be really – I don't think it's going to be as simple as him just staying. I think OKC is going to be pushed, and I could see him leaving. I just don't know if this year is the year for him to do it yet. I think he can make a whole lot more money next year when that cap goes over $100 million.
If he wants to win titles.
That's true.
He needs to come to Tattletown, USA. It's got to be Tattletown, USA, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Man – you would be unbearable if he signed with Minnesota.
Oh, my God, I would.
You would be unbearable. All right, man. So that's it for our NBA talk. We was going to talk about the season. Maybe we'll talk about that as a special once the free agency starts going along. But there's a lot of rumors for trades, and there's some big names up for free agency. So it's going to be a fun NBA offseason as always. That league has literally become a 24/7, 365 days a year league, and it is absolutely fun in the offseason. What does the Cavs do? They keep Love? Does KD go somewhere else? Or, maybe OKC gets crazy and trades Westbrook. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Maybe the Clippers, they drafted Johnson from North Carolina. Maybe that's an out for Griffin.
Maybe Griffin goes somewhere. Exactly. Clippers, hey, they've had the same team for 3 or 4 years now, and they can't seem to get over the hump, so.
Oh, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, and we've got some NBA. Me, Joe, and Andrew, we're huge NBA fans, and it's going to be fun to talk about as the year goes along. But Joe, Joe, do you have anything else you want to say before we kind of sign off here?
Yeah, Timberwolves 6 seed playoffs next year.
Okay, I can see that easily. Maybe a 5 seed. I can see him getting.
I was going to say 5 seed, but I'm going to go 6 seed.
Very cool. I can see that. That's a good prediction. I won't say my predictions for after the free agency. See where people go. Make it easier on me to be right. But yeah, so that's it for Joe. This is your editor-in-chief, Aaron. And don't forget to check us out on monstersofgeek.com. That's where all of our buddies and friends and awesome people that we know write cool stuff. So we got just put up some E3 stuff as far as the wrap up for me and Daniel. Kind of did a little wrap up there for E3, some of our favorite games that were announced. So go check that out. Go check out Jenna stuff, Captain America stuff, reviews and whatnot that's on there. But yeah, go check us out. I'm sure there's something on there that you will you'll appreciate and be able to enjoy as far as reading. And so go check us out at monstersgeek.com. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, the Monsters Geek Podcast. Usually it's a weekly thing this week where We'll have a couple different special podcasts. This is to be the first one out. We're going to do an E3 one where Daniel will be on tomorrow, or hopefully tomorrow. We're going to talk about some E3 stuff, wrap up show there. So you'll get kind of more of a couple special editions, and then we'll kind of return back to our weekly news that we usually do. But a lot of big stuff going on. I was going to Denver Comic-Con. That'll be another special edition. I believe that me and my wife is going to talk about how awesome Comic-Con was in Denver. So that'll be up at some point. But yeah, go check us out. You can find us on iTunes under Monsters of Geek Podcast, and also you can check us out on Spreaker.com. You can follow us. You can subscribe on both of those places. So please go follow us. If you have any questions, maybe a Q&A session, or maybe you just want to tell us how awesome we are, just email us at monstersofgeek@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer your questions or whatever that you need to do. Follow us on Twitter at Monsters of Geek, and also subscribe to us on YouTube as we do our live streams on YouTube, usually about 10 o'clock Sunday nights, or we usually announce it on our Facebook page. Go follow us on Facebook at Monsters Geek Blog, and then also YouTube under Monsters Geek Blog. So that's it. That's all the announcements that I have. So go do all that stuff for us, and if you like us, go give us a review on iTunes as well. So for Joe, for me, it's been a wild NBA 2016. It's just going to get wilder in the off season, and you'll hear a lot of talk of that in the next coming months. So thank you for listening, and we are out.
Rest in peace, Ralph Stanley.